Accidental Author. It is a new month and it is a new opportunity to learn something new about lots of things, but specifically about getting better at in your approach to becoming a successful author, to turning that into something that's going to give you the results in your life that you want. And you know, so as you know, these monthly video casts are all about sharing the expertise of some amazing people, because I don't know it all. I certainly don't proclaim to know it all. And in fact, I'm really looking forward to learning today, because we're very, very lucky that my guest for this month is the wonderful Lillian Nejad. Hello, Lillian.
Hi, how are you, Andrew?
I'm good. So let me just explain a little bit about Lillian. It's pretty impressive. Lillian is actually a qualified psychologist, and she's working in that space very actively at the moment. She works in private practice. She works with private clients. She runs groups. She does a lot of training and development. She supervises psychology students. So she knows a little bit about psychology, which is a good thing, considering that pretty much psychology is everything you get your thinking right, get your mind right, and everything will work. But Lillian also is an author. She's a published author. She's got a book and an audio series on anxiety. She started a series of books called Life Blockers, and it's wonderful. Her first edition is the Sleep Edition, which has been released, I think it was this year, Lillian?
Yes, it was in January.
So January, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But she's got a plan for lots and lots of new books. She's writing articles, she's speaking, she's on radio, she's doing incredible stuff. Almost run out of time with your introduction, Lillian, but thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And how are you?
I'm fine. A little bit exhausted after your introduction as well, but fine.
Good. Well, for those watching, I mean, obviously you'll know, but this is going to be a recording, so people might watch it. But we are in December, so Lillian is exhausted because it's the end of You've had an amazing year, Lillian. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you've been doing this year.
Well, I feel like it has been a really different year for me than previous years, because I've spent most of my career working in public mental health for an organization, and then only recently went out to run my own business, which was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And then I decided, well, I actually really like to write and I want to make a business out of that as well. So late last year, I thought, well, just get a book out. I went to one of your seminars actually, and I found it really inspiring. And I thought, well, it doesn't matter how long it is, doesn't have to be about everything, it just be about one thing. And I just focused for 3 months, wrote the book, and released it myself in January. And then I think what I found the most daunting was, now what? I know I'm a psychologist, I can do psychology, I can see clients, I can speak in front of people, I can write, but I don't really know anything about marketing. I don't know anything really about networking to sell something.
Yes.
I felt very uncomfortable with that. So it's been a year of being uncomfortable and accepting that these are new challenges. I don't know what I'm doing necessarily, but trying and trying to make sure that I'm approaching these new challenges rather than avoiding them and just hoping that things work out anyway.
And you've really had a good year, because we've touched base a few times this year, and you've done some incredible stuff. So congratulations on what you've done. But just going back to what you've been talking about, and I guess the main topic of today's conversation is how you create that mindset to things, an approach, you call it an approach mindset to things that you really want to avoid. You know, I mean, if we could, I just think, well, that is just the answer, really, isn't it? If we can understand how do we create that mindset to want to do things we've been trying to avoid, like all the things that are most important, really, if you think about it.
That's right.
All the things we're trying to avoid, aren't they? They're the most important, like exercise and relationships and, you know, sales calls and networking and all that sort of stuff is stuff we would much rather avoid. We'd much rather sit on the couch and watch TV, but that will never give us the results. So what I want, because from your, I love this, that we're coming from two-pronged attack here. You're coming from someone that's actually done it. So you've got personal experience, not just book smarts. Now, you do, obviously, being a qualified psychologist, you can understand things at a deeper level. So let's talk about this. So let's talk about, what personally, let's talk about you personally, and then we'll talk about maybe a little bit about the psychology.
Sure.
How did you handle some of those things that were scaring you? What was it that you did, starting to write a book when you thought, can I write it? Will it be any good? And then once you've written it, who's going to buy it? Who's going to sell it? Tell us about how you negotiated some of those things with your mindset.
Look, I think I really needed to focus on what I wanted to do and then work out, well, what are the steps that I'm going to need to either do or learn how to do to get there. So it was a lot of writing lists down and then trying to work out, well, do I know how to do this? Great, do it. And if I don't know how to do it, where do I find out how to do it? And then trying to find people like you and other people, or online resources, or books, or friends who have done this, to try to learn how to do these things. And then once you learn, though, that doesn't mean you want to do it. So, there are things that, that are when they're new, or you feel like they're challenging, or you feel like maybe you don't have the time to invest in doing some things. And it can be really easy to just say, well, too hard basket. I'm just going to not do that, or I'm just going to procrastinate forever. I'm just going to, avoid it and, have wishful thinking that it's somehow going to solve itself someday, or someone's going to come and tell me what to do and do it for me. But really, that's not, if you're going to be a responsible person and you want your own kind of dreams and goals to be realized, you actually have to put the hard work in. And I think you just have to accept it's going to be difficult, and just move forward.
And it's interesting what you're saying about finding information, what do you know and what don't you know? And finding information, often for a lot of us, and I'll put my hand up for this as well, you put all this effort into actually researching and finding out what to do, and then you sit back and go, well, I've done a lot of work. You almost think you've done enough.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, yeah, that's good. I'll just now put the rest off. And then, as you say, the longer you put it off, the harder it becomes.
Yeah.
What was the thing for you then? I mean, another question before I ask this question, where did you find answers? I mean, for you, the best place to find answers to some of your questions. I mean, because there'll be people watching this that will go, yeah, good. Where do I find these answers? Where were some of the places you've got answers from?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, we are so lucky that we're in the internet age, because there's so much information online. It's infinite, really.
Yep.
So I think it's just about knowing exactly what information you're looking for, putting it in the search engine, and then really going through thoroughly and finding the information that is like well written, detailed enough, that is exactly answering your question. And then what I do, I'm come from a research background, so I'm pretty good at it, but it's also quite time consuming. But I just kind of copy and paste all the bits and pieces from different articles that I find the most helpful, and then make my own document. So I've always got my document to refer back to. And I found that the easiest approach. And then also, if you can find people in your community who actually do this for a living, like how to do it here locally, who can answer your questions. One of the main questions that I had was, do I self-publish or do I go with a publisher? Because I have published a book with a publisher in the past. But I thought, well, a lot of people are self-publishing these days. You have more freedom. You get to own your work. There's a lot of kind of benefits to that. So I wanted to try that. And so I really had to look into what are the pros and cons of both. And then when I made the decision to self-publish this first book as a test case, it's like, well, then how do you do that? But there are thousands of articles on how to do that. And some are better than others. And you have to kind of sift through a lot of maybe not so helpful material, but a lot of wonderful, helpful material online.
Cool. And what was that defining moment for you that got you to get started, to break, to try and break free of that fear or that doubt, or what was the thing for you that really got you, right, I've got to do this, and it's scary and uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway?
I think part of what was holding me back was having this vision of what I was going to write, and not being flexible with that. I think that I was wanting to write this kind of big book about everything. And I think that the kind of breadth of that was so hard to even think that I'd be able to finish that within the next 1 or 2 years, that I thought, oh, it was holding me back. And then I heard from someone that you could just publish like a 10-page book. It doesn't have to be a 200-page book. It could be, a lot of people are publishing very short books online, and they're selling them for, I don't know, a couple dollars, $5, something like that. And I thought, oh, I didn't know that you could do that. Why don't I just pick one of the topics that I wanted to write about, that I actually have content about already, kind of ready to go, and just focus on that. So I picked insomnia. That's how we did the Life Blockers, the sleep edition. And I picked insomnia as a topic because I had already written like 8 blogs about insomnia. And I thought, well, I can start with the 8 blogs that I've written, and then, do more research in the area and write, about all the evidence-based facts about insomnia that would help people. And yeah, and so because I just had that idea of just, it doesn't have to be this giant thing. Just start small. Do your test case book. You've never done self-publishing before. Make it like a small chunk rather than this giant project. And so that really motivated me to just get started and get it done. And I think within from September to December, I just wrote it.
Yeah.
And it's not a 10-page book. It's like a 65-page book. But, that's...
But you just needed to get started, right? It was just that overcoming inertia, really, and just getting started. And I think it's that chasm that most people find difficult. They think it's this massive chasm they've got to jump across, which is the first step. And often once you get started, the path opens up, right? The way forward appears. Every step you take, you can actually, okay, there's an idea, I can do that, and all of a sudden your confidence grows and your belief grows, and then you get into a flow, which obviously you found.
Yeah. That's
so,
exactly.
okay, so let's talk from a psychologist. Now put your psychologist's hat on.
Okay.
How do we move past? Because this is a big question, unanswered question many people have. How do I do this? How do I get past this fear? How do I overcome? How do I get unstuck? What are some ideas and strategies?
Well, anxiety is something that we all experience, and it's not something that you want to get rid of necessarily. I think a lot of people have this attitude, and even books are written like, get rid of your anxiety, or, don't stress. And it's like, well, actually stress and anxiety are part of life. So my next book will be about this. But, we do need to accept that anxiety is not only a part of life, but also it can be really helpful. But there are times when it's not helpful. And that's when it's, you're experiencing it too frequently, or it's lasting too long, or it's stopping you from doing the things that you actually want to do or need to do. And that's when you need to look at ways to deal with that. And really the best treatment, and this is what I do for a living, the best treatment is to approach what you feel anxious about. Unless it's an unsafe thing that you feel anxious about, like truly unsafe, then the treatment is to approach it. And that can be in a steps graded, way, or it can be you just go and do it. But it's really about recognizing you're feeling anxious, understanding what your urge is in that moment, which is almost always to avoid, almost always, and then doing the opposite of that.
Yes.
That's the answer.
Great.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple, isn't it?
I know it sounds simple.
Okay.
But it's very
so
hard.
When we're on our own, however, and this is the big problem, because you can be talking to someone, a friend, or someone encourages you to do it, or a mentor, or a parent, or whatever. But it's like when you're sitting on your own, with the phone in your hand and the number you've got the number in your phone ready to make the call, but something is just, I just can't make that call.
Yeah.
How do you enhance the chances of actually doing it? What are some ways to actually, because I know a lot of people sitting here going, yeah, that's great, but I'm still scared.
Yeah. Well, be scared. It's fine. Be scared. You're supposed to be scared. Like, that's the thing. Just accept that it's a scary thing. You're doing something new. You're doing something out of your comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with being scared about that.
Yep.
So one is just be accepting of that emotion. It's not a bad thing. The second thing that always helps me is to prepare. You know, if you're worried about not knowing what to say on the phone, write yourself a script. There's nothing wrong with that. Prepare what you want to say. Anticipate what the questions might be and have your answers ready. You're on the phone. They can't see you. They don't know that
you can't see the sweat pouring from your face or the look on your face.
Yeah. Or you could practice if you have to actually do something face to face. Practice your script. Practice what you want to say. And the third thing is to give yourself a deadline. So that always helps me. I need deadlines, and for some reason I prefer them to come from external sources.
Yeah.
So if someone says this article needs to be written by this time, it will be done.
Yeah.
So if you can task somebody like a friend or a family member to say, your deadline to make this phone call is 5:00 on, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then maybe that would motivate you to actually.
Yeah. So accountability. So having someone that you can be accountable to. So even if you say, hey, I'm going to make some phone calls today, just letting you know, I'll get back to you at the end of the day with the results, and putting it out to someone. And I know a lot of the people that I work with, I check in regularly with them. They've got deadlines for writing and deadlines for certain things. And often, I say to them, look, I don't even know how, I don't really feel like I'm helping you. And they will always say, look, do you know what, just having this meeting means that I will do something before I talk to you, because I don't want to sit there and go, oh, I haven't done anything. So even just, having a meeting with someone that, you've sort of put it out there and said, look, this is what I'm planning to do.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
Because you don't want to feel like you're letting someone else down, or you don't want to be embarrassed. So not that that's necessarily the right motivation, but whatever it takes to get you started, hey?
Exactly. That helps me. I remember when I was doing my PhD, and my supervisor would say, I want you to, do this. And I'd say, well, when do you want it by? And she's like, oh, whenever you finish. I'm like, no, you need to give me a deadline. Otherwise it will not get done. And she would just do it for me, and then it would get done.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
If you're that type of person that needs that, just recognize that within yourself, and then make, your environment kind of help you with that.
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of it does have to do with, knowing yourself. What do you need to be motivated?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone's different as well. So you really need to know what motivates you, or what's motivated you in the past.
Yeah.
And then put that in place for yourself.
So really focusing on, why. I always talk to people about going back when I feel like someone's stuck or stopped or in a plateau. I always say, well, let's go back to why you're doing this.
Yeah.
What's the reason? What's the big picture? What are you working towards? Because I always say, and this is not about the book. The book is just that, writing a book is just a way to unlock, opportunities and create options.
Mm-hmm.
What are the options? What are we trying to create? And then come back and say, okay, well, if I don't do this first step, then I can never do the other steps to create the results that I want. So
so always reminding yourself of your goal, and what dreams and goals that you have that you want to pursue is really, really helpful as well.
You sent me a couple of notes, which is actually very helpful. There's a couple of things here that are really good, which I'll get you to expand on. The first one is only compare yourself to yourself.
Yes.
How you have improved with practice and effort. Do you want to sort of develop that a little bit?
Well, people, and including me, like if you're going, especially into a new area like writing or marketing, and you're just starting out, it's very easy to compare yourself to everyone who's already done it and be like, I'm not as good as them, and I'm not going to be able to do it, so why should I even try? And I'm going to embarrass myself, or, any of those kinds of thoughts. So that's not going to help you at all. Moving towards actually completing a book or actually marketing your book. So really it's just, you're not competing against anybody else. You're only competing against yourself. You're only measuring yourself against your past self, yourself yesterday. Yeah. If you make that phone call and you complete it, then how do you compare yourself after that phone call to before that phone call? I can guarantee you that the next time you have to make a phone call like that, you're going to feel much more confident and less anxious.
And yeah, exactly. Wonderful. The other thing that I think goes along with that is, often people, because now I've got 7 published books, and people go, oh, I'll never do that. And I'd say to them, well, I started where you started. I started clueless. I started with no idea what I was doing and doubting myself and anxious, and I had the same fears you had. I'm just a little bit further down the track. So you've got to go through the due process. And as you said,
has to start somewhere. That's right.
You focus every day, you do a little bit better, and you'll eventually get anywhere you want to get. Wonderful. Now, the last, the other thing you've written here, which I think we should just bring up, is be accepting of imperfection and feeling awkward or embarrassed sometimes.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that's what we're all scared of. A lot of social anxiety comes from those thoughts of worrying about being judged or worrying about being embarrassed. You were very kind to introduce me to doing radio, and I was very, very anxious about that. I said yes because I thought, well, I can't say no because I teach people to approach, things that they're anxious about, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I actually would love to know if this is something that I like to do or not. But I had to I couldn't sleep the night before. I was a little bit like, how is this going to go? And what if I do say the wrong thing? Or what if I don't say everything I want to say? Or, those are normal kinds of thoughts and feelings that you would have about doing something new. And so part of it is just accepting, like, those are totally normal thoughts and feelings to have, but also to not let that derail you from what you actually want to do. So actually, like I said, approaching those situations. It's not an unsafe situation. You can cope with making mistakes and being embarrassed. That's the worst that's going to happen, that you're embarrassed. That's fine. You can cope with that. It's okay.
And the good thing about radio too is no one can see your face. No one can see how petrified you are. And it's also just, to give you a bit of a wrap. I mean, you've through your own admission, you didn't sleep the night before. You were very anxious about coming on radio, and you're now regular. You've got a regular spot on a well-known radio station now, and talking about psychology and different aspects of that. So you've taken that fear, you've done that first scary thing.
Yeah,
you probably would have quite easily picked up the phone and said, oh, I'm not up for it today, but you did it, and now it's turned into something that who knows where it could potentially lead. But
I was talking about insomnia that day, and I had insomnia that night. So
right,
so I just said it. Why not be genuine about it? We all have that happen to us sometimes. So yes, I am feeling a bit anxious today, and I couldn't sleep last night. And when I did the radio the second time, I couldn't sleep that time either. But I knew that was going to happen, and I was fine with it. I just I'm a bit nervous, and I'll go in. And now I sleep. It's totally fine. I found out that I really like going in, and it's such a nice, warm environment to be in, and I really like that medium. So I'm really happy that I was able to kind of overcome, that fear of wanting it to be perfect all the time and wanting to make sure that I wasn't going to make any mistakes, and just knowing that I probably won't get to say everything that I want to say, and maybe I will say something that I don't mean sometimes, but it's okay. I can cope with that and make up for it some other way.
Wonderful. Well, Lillian, that's been brilliant, because I love that it's not just theory. You've combined your knowledge and your research with actual personal experience of testing these theories, and they work. So thank you. Now, should people want to contact you for anything, get your book, talk to you for any reason, how do they do that?
The best way is to go to my website. It's www.omnipsych.com. All the information about what I do for a living. So if you want to come see me on an individual or group level, you can come and see me. Or if you want to buy a book, or you want to listen to some of the radio snippets that I've done, talking about various topics like loneliness and mental health and women's mental health and all sorts of things like that, feel free. Just go. And there's also a contact page as well if you want to email me. So that's the best way, omnipsych.com.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful chatting to you. You're a very inspiring lady.
Oh,
Well
thanks,
done for
Andrew.
everything you've done. Look forward to reading all of the rest of the books that come out, and all the other amazing things you're doing. So thank you for sharing.
No worries. Thanks so much, Andrew.
Okay, see you soon. Thanks, Lily.